Hello and welcome back to Match Week Breakdown. Um, I'm just going to get straight into it this week, and because why not is kind of the answer to that. Um, Obviously, you know what we do. We do first game of the week to last game of the week. So first game on a Saturday or a Friday, last game on a Sunday or a Monday, depending. Anyway, first game of the week was Nottingham Forest Chelsea. 3-0 Chelsea. Josh Acheampong with his first senior goal ever. Pedro Neto with a lovely free kick, and then Reece James just to seal the match off with his goal. Um, and this is the game that finally, after so long of Forest fans asking for it, got Ange Postecoglou sacked. The sacking was deserved. He didn't win in 8 games. He had 6 losses and 2 draws. I think one of them was in Europe and another one was against someone else. I can't really remember who. But yeah, very, very deserved. I think one of the most deserved sackings I've ever been, and I think in total it's the second shortest reign of an English manager. Um, I can't remember who was first, but I think it was 40, 50 days that he lasted, which for where Forest were last season with Nuno Espirito Santo is really, really poor. And it just kind of shows how Marinakis, like how big of a mistake that actually was letting Nuno go. Because if you look at how they played last season with Nuno, they were very defensive. That's how they kind of got Europe. They were very defensive, and then they would kind of shoot off in the counter with Hudson Odoi and then Alanga on both flanks. And it like they could have stayed with that. Obviously, Anthony Alanga went, but they still got Dan and Doy. I think it's Dan. I think it's Dan and Doy. If I'm wrong, then please do correct me. But yeah, Dan and Doy obviously came in. Hudson Odoi stayed. Morgan Gibbs White was going off to Tottenham, and then Forest said that they were doing it illegally. Um, but yeah, so that one fell. But you could kind of see. I remember the video of the contract extension of Morgan Gibbs White, and you could see that he doesn't really want to be there. And I don't blame him because the owner is a madman, and everything around that club is now falling to pieces. Obviously, at the time of this being filmed, which is a Wednesday the 22nd of October, they brought in Sean Dyche a few days ago. I don't think it's gonna go well. He's gonna play 4-4-2, proper English football, boot the ball long, and then hope it works. But with Ange, everything fell to pieces because he plays such a high line, and with Milenkovic and Murillo, it just doesn't work at all. Ola Aina, meant to play there. Nico Williams looks out of place. Um, yeah, everything kind of fell apart after Nuno left, and it kind of shows how badly managed or badly owned that club is when you're letting go of possibly one of your most successful managers ever. And then, like, it's by successful, I don't mean winning trophies, but just where he got the club and the state that he put the club in was so much better than what it was before that. So I do rate Nuno highly. I don't know where he's going to go next. I hope it. Oh my God, why did I say that? I know where he is. He's at West Ham. My brain's completely gone. I had a driving lesson, so just ignore that. But yeah, Nuno is obviously at West Ham now. I hope he does very good at West Ham. I think they are still currently sat in relegation, but I hope that will change. I really do hope it will change. So yeah, Ange got sacked. Nottingham Forest haven't played well from the first game to the last game, and I don't feel bad for him at all because like Ange in press conferences is okay. He makes too many jokes. Well, not too many jokes. It's good to have a laugh in a press conference, but like, it just seems like he doesn't care. Um, and he is 60 and he's been around many, many clubs. So, yeah. But anyway, Ange got sacked. Chelsea won 3-0. Chelsea are in. I don't know if it's too early to say this because again, we are still only 8 or 9 games in, I think. Um, But yeah, Chelsea are certainly in the title race, in my opinion. If they keep this form up, then they've got to be. Even without Palmer, because he's out for another 5, 6 weeks. I think it's 6 weeks in total. So he's been out for 8 weeks, maybe more. No, actually, I'm being an idiot. Maybe like 4 weeks right now. 4 weeks. Because if he's been out for 8 weeks, then he's been out for the whole season, and he hasn't been. But yeah, I do wish Palmer a speedy recovery and hope that he comes back soon because he's such a joy. Like, he's such a good player to watch. He just plays like it's a, he just plays like he's back in school again. But yes, 3-0 Chelsea. Ange got sacked. What a week for Nottingham Forest fans that's been. And Sean Dyche has brought back five. Why did I say like that? Five former Nottingham Forest coaches, I believe. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how everything gets on there. But I'd just like to give a shout out to Reece James because he's not fit a lot of the time, but when he is fit, he is a top three right backs in the league. Um, behind this season, behind Timber, and I don't know who else. He might be top two. I think he's second. I can't think of another right back that is above Reece James when they're all fully fit. Kyle Walker this season's been pretty good. But yeah, so I'm gonna say top two actually. I've changed my mind. Yeah, Timber, Reece James, and probably Kyle Walker this season below him. Next game is Brighton Newcastle. Brighton won 2-1. Danny Welbeck scored both goals, and Nick Voltemada scored a lovely goal, a lovely back heel, um, to nearly draw the match at the Amex Stadium. Do I think this was a good game? Yes. Would I like to see it? Yes. Would I like to see it again? Yes. Um, yeah, I think Brighton looked okay. But it was one of those games where they looked okay. Um, I would like to see a bit more. I think the ball through to Danny Welbeck, by the way, by Ruta was like perfect, and the finish, just the little dink over Nick Pope was perfect, absolutely perfect. So they went 1-0 in at half time, um, and then Nick Voltemada with a lovely back heel. It was. I don't think it's goal of the season contender, but it is one of those goals where you go, "Oh, that looked nice," and it was lovely. And the Verbruggen was never going to get to it. But yeah, I like both teams. I do enjoy watching both teams. I've always enjoyed watching Brighton because I think in ever since they joined the Premier League, they haven't taken the league by storm, but they've I always say this, and I'm going to say it again. Brighton are always really good at bringing in young talents, evolving them, and then passing them on to other clubs. And I think they're so good at that, and it's a big part of their success because they keep getting this money in from all these young players that are leaving, and it's really impressive to see what they do with them. Newcastle, I don't mind watching when they're having a good game. I hate it when they're having a good game against us. I remember last season Arsenal played them 4 times and they beat us 3 of them, I believe. And we beat them when it really mattered, as in we secured our Champions League spot in our last meeting with them last season. But yeah, Newcastle obviously losing Isak, it hasn't seemed to affect them. And actually, I think Isak has got the worst part of that deal going to Newcastle because he's not the star man anymore, and Newcastle got so much money for him, and he's been bang average. And I don't want Liverpool fans saying. I saw someone say the other day that he's got to adapt to the league that he's been in for 3 seasons. And yes, you can make the argument. Oh, he's got to gel in the team first. He's got to gel in the team. You're spending 130 something million on a man who is supposedly going to get you 30 goals a season, but he needs to gel in the team first. He's not going to get those goals straight off the bat, is he? Wirtz has gelled in more than that. He's got 9 games under his belt, probably more, and he's not got a goal or an assist for you lot so far. Liverpool have genuinely fallen off a cliff. I don't know what's happened. They got 4 losses in a row, and they've fallen off a cliff completely. So I think Isak's got the worst out of that deal, and I think Newcastle with Nick Voltemada, who has been a great signing since he's come in, and obviously scored his first goal for Germany in last week, I think, in the international break, pretty much. But yeah, he scored his first goal for Germany, and he's been flying high for Newcastle. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think Voltemada's been good. I think Isak's gotten worse actually, and I think Brighton. I don't know if Brighton are going to fly high. I think Brighton are going to do what they normally do and finish mid-table. And yeah, so yeah, it's been an okay week. It's been an okay week for Brighton and Newcastle fans alike. It's a good game. It's I feel like that's always one of the good games. A good game to always watch is a mid-table against a higher side or a mid-table against a mid-table. Mid-table clashes are always more interesting most of the time than like top of the table clashes, in my opinion, anyway. But that can change depending on the game, depending on like the stature and what it means. In terms of table wise, yeah. Next game is Burnley versus Leeds, and Burnley, to the surprise of most people, I think, came up with a 2-0 win here. Ogachukwu and Tuchan Tu I don't know how you say that name. Tuchuana? Tu I don't know. Please correct me if you can in the comments. Ogachukwu striking in the 18th minute, and then the other one. Yeah, he struck in the 68th minute, so 50 minutes apart. Lovely cross to Ogachukwu from Kyle Walker, like inch perfect cross. And then for is it Tachuna? Because that sounds weird. That just sounds strange. But yeah, his was a lovely, lovely strike. Hit it from the outside of the box, top corner. I think the man that you have to point out in this game, though, is Martin Dubravka, because he has been so crucial to their success in the Premier League so far. Obviously, this game has brought them out of relegation, so they are currently sat 17th in the table. That bottom three, I can't see it changing unless Sean Dyche works his magic on Nottingham Forest, because it's Nottingham Forest, West Ham, and Wolves. Nuno could get Wolves or West Ham out of that relegation battle, and then Wolves, I just can't see anything happening. They lost Cunha, they lost Aitnari, and I just can't see anything changing for them this season. I do like Vitor Pereira, and what he did last season when he came in after they sacked Gary O'Neill um, was revolutionary, and he got them out of relegation, and I do like him as a manager. But I just think he hasn't got the tools as he did last season. Like I said, Aitnari's gone and Cunha's gone. His only shining light now is Jorgen Strand Larsen and maybe João Gomez. But yeah, I can't see anything changing for them this season, personally. They did also lose their last game, so and he did get a contract extension. Um, to the delight of many fans, but I just don't know how he's going to turn it around. But maybe he will, and maybe we'll all look like fools at the end of the day. But anyway, Martin Dubravka has been so good for Burnley, and Newcastle letting him go was a correct decision. I've said this in a past podcast, and I'm going to say it again. Newcastle letting him go was the correct decision for them as a club. For him as a player, it was an even better decision to go to a club like Burnley, who would have been struggling if they had come up with just their goalkeeper who they had last season. James Trafford obviously was their goalkeeper, and he did have a buyback clause to Man City, and they activated it. But the poor man has now been benched by Gianluigi Donnarumma. I do feel bad for James Trafford because he didn't get off to a good start in Manchester. If he would have stayed at Burnley for one more season, I think he could have flown, and I think he would have done really, really well for that Burnley side. Obviously, familiar settings and everything like that. Going to Man City was a bad decision for him, but I think if he would have stayed at Burnley, it would have been good for the club and for the player. But that's just my opinion. I'm not an insider into football. I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was any words said, secret words that Man City and James Trafford had, but we'll never know. But I just think, in my opinion, it would have been better for the club and for the player, which is in everyone's best interests. Next game is Crystal Palace versus Bournemouth. I'm rattling through them this time, aren't I? I remember last episode it took me like 5 minutes to get into the games. And that was the feedback that I got from someone who listened to that episode. I took 5 minutes to get into the actual episode because I was just talking about other random things. Right, next game, Crystal Palace Bournemouth is a game of the season contender, and I don't know how it wouldn't win game of the season because it was such a good game from start to finish. Eli Junior Krupi, who I said when he transferred to Bournemouth would be a very good signing, scored in the 7th minute and the 38th minute. Uh, he is such a good player, and he was kind of playing as a makeshift striker this game. He headed in 7 minutes just as a flick on. Goal number 2 was a mistake from the defender, quite a bad mistake as well. 38th minute, Bournemouth went in, and they've been flying high this season. Bournemouth have. Iraola, I don't know what he's done to them, but he's got them flying higher than last season. But we've been through this story before, and they failed to meet expectations to where they could have possibly finished last season. But who knows? Maybe this season they will get Europe, and I think if they do get Europe, they will attract some bigger players because they haven't attracted massively, like, not determined. What's the word? Established players. They haven't really captured them this season with not having Europe, but this season I think they'll get it, and I think they will get Europe this season as well. Anyway, Crystal Palace made a comeback. And who else than the man who has been flying high for club and country recently, Jean-Philippe Mateta. With this, he scored 2 in 5 and he saved his team. And then the shock blow came. Bournemouth, 89th minute. The ball falls to Ryan Christie. Goal. Limbs in the away end for Bournemouth. 89th minute, Ryan Christie scores. And Crystal Palace fans at this time, home at Selhurst Park, must have been thinking, it's over. Fans have been leaving. Fans are leaving. They don't believe that their team can get back into this. And then the unthinkable happens. I believe it's a corner. Mark Gahey gets bundled down by a defender. 95th minute. VAR, they've had a look. Penalty confirmed. 97th minute, this penalty has been taken, and Jean-Philippe Mateta, who scored his first France goal this week, or last week, puts it home, 3-3, and then he misses. He misses again. 99th minute, 3-3. Jean-Philippe Mateta has the chance to win the game and score his 4th goal. He misses. How? That is possibly the easiest chance of that game, and he squandered it. I'm not saying Mateta is bad, but he had the chance to be a hero with both teams flying high and possibly 2 of the more informed teams this season. I'm just saying Bournemouth are 3rd, and Crystal Palace are building on top of that Community Shield and FA Cup winning season. Like, come on now. You got to be finishing off games. But game of the season is a 100% for this game. It was such a good game to watch. Obviously, there's been no red cards, there was no disallowed goals. But in terms of end to end drama late, it was a good game to watch. And a game of the season, I can't think of one this season that's above it. I'll be honest with you. So right now, game of the season, and at the end of this season, by the way, I will be doing everything like game of the season, player of the season, top goal scorer, which will be news already. But yes, we'll be covering all of that at the end of the season. But this right now is my game of the season, confirmed 100%. Unless there is a game that ends 5-5 and with like 4 red cards, then that'll be game of the season for me, yes. But yeah, I think Mateta obviously he's scoring his first France goal, which is a big moment for him. It was his first France call up, which is weird to me because I thought he would have been called up to the September one. But he did get called up to this one, and He brought the boom to France. It was a decent goal for France, to be fair, as well. But yeah, he's been flying high recently. Hat trick, goal for France in the same week, I believe. There we go. Perfect. I do rate Jean-Philippe Mateta very highly as well. I think he is such an underrated player and top 3 strikers in the league right now. I think Haaland and then the new boy Nick Voltemada could be in that conversation on form currently. Obviously, Haaland tops form, and I think Mateta then Voltemada currently is my top 3. I don't think Chris Wood's in that conversation. You could put him in there, but I don't think he would be top 3. And then you could put. I think Evan Nilsson for me would have been in that conversation last season, but he hasn't kicked on this season, so he's not in that conversation for me. So that's my top 3. And then Gyökeres hasn't. It's a difficult one because Gyökeres this season hasn't been goal scoring, but he's been keeping defenders moving and busy, which has let our other players score. But if we're going purely off form, that's my top 3, and Gyökeres I don't think goes into it. Anyway, speaking of top form in the league currently for strikers, Erling Haaland scored 2 against Everton. A game that Jack Grealish couldn't play in because obviously he's on loan to can't speak. He's on loan at Everton, and you can't play against your parent club, which seems like a really weird rule to me. It's just an odd one, but it's a classic Erling Haaland goal. Ball goes out, header, bang, 1-0 City at home at the Etihad. And then the second goal is, I don't really know what else to say. It's a classic Haaland goal. Pickford realistically should be doing better. Maybe James Tarkowski got in his way a little bit. It did go through Tarkowski's legs. But I think when you're an experienced keeper like Pickford, you should be doing better in that situation. For me personally, but Jordan Pickford. He's such a solid keeper. So to let that go in, I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, Man City are in the title race. I think it's a 3-horse race currently, and Liverpool aren't in that 3-horse race. I think Bournemouth, Arsenal, and Man City are the 3 right now. Whether Bournemouth's form drops and then Spurs could sneak in there, possibly. But they are in 6th currently. Spurs are. But I think they could make a comeback. But we'll see. Like I always say, we're 8 games in, so it's not a big deal realistically. Anyway, next game. Next game is Sunderland versus Wolves. Like I said earlier, Wolves did lose. Nordi Mukiele scored his first goal for Sunderland, and then Krejci, I think that's how you say his name, scored an own goal just to seal the Sunderland win. He just felt like giving them a helping hand, just to add a bit of drama into there. 92nd minute, own goal. Poor man. What a time to score your own an own goal, by the way. 92nd minute when you could get back into it. Disgraceful from him. But yeah, I think Sunderland are the dark horses for the season. They are the Black Cats after all, but they are the dark horses. They've been really good. I've been really, really impressed with them this season. I think they have recruited really well, and I think they've played players to their full potential. Obviously, potential this season. Wolves, like I said earlier, have been really, really disappointing. Like just not playing to their best. Like what they played last season, they were playing some lovely football, and then Cunha fell off the face of the planet at Man United, and then Ryan Aitneri went to Man City and got injured. But it's one of those things where, like, even if you do lose your star players, you have to bring in good backups. And I don't think they brought in good or reliable backups for either of those 2 players. But you just kind of have to get all your players on the same page and get the ball to Jordan Strand Larsen because he is their best player currently. And I think everyone else would agree with me. But yeah, Wolves have been disappointing. Sunderland haven't been disappointing. They've been really, really impressive so far. They are sat 7th, I believe, in the league, if I'm not mistaken. They are. They are drawing on points with Chelsea and Spurs. I don't think anyone saw it coming. I was looking at some predictions at the start of this season about where Sunderland are going to finish and about where Burnley and Leeds are going to finish. And I think everyone put Leeds above Sunderland, and I think some people put Burnley. Burnley got put last most, but people put Leeds above Sunderland. And I've always put Sunderland, like I think when I did my predictions, I put Sunderland in like a mid-table spot, because that's where I genuinely believe that they'll finish. But they're exceeding expectations of everyone so far, and they've been really consistent actually. Normally, when a newly promoted side comes in, they recruit like Ipswich did it last season, where they recruited really well, and then just didn't find their feet in time. And I think Kieran McKenna is a big part of why they didn't find their feet. Um, but yeah, it's one of those things where you have to get your players on the same page as quick as you can, or you're not gonna survive in the Premier League with the intensity and the speed of it all. But I think Regis Labrie has done a brilliant job with the group of players that he's got. He pretty much brought in a whole new 11 and revamped the club completely from what it used to be. Do I believe they'll survive? Yes. Do I believe Leeds will survive it? Yes. And do I think Burnley will survive? I'm not so sure. But at the current moment in time, it looks like they will. And they'll do it lower half of the table, like 16th, 17th. That's where I'm talking. But yeah, I've been really impressed with kind of all three of them, but mostly Sunderland, as they've been bloody fantastic. And I think everyone who watches the Premier League would agree with me there. Next game, I obviously watched this game, as you didn't know, as you all know, I'm an Arsenal fan. But like I always say, I try to be as normal as I can as an Arsenal fan. I try to be as fair as I can with this podcast, as I do actually like football as a whole and not just one side of it, like my club. Um, Fulham Arsenal, a 1-0 goal. A 1-0 goal? That is how it works. 1-0 game. Arsenal won 1-0, and it was a set piece again. Leandro Trossard, obviously at the back post, as Gabriel Magalhaes flicked it on from a corner. Um, Now, people have been saying set piece FC, but they go in the back of the net, and also that's how we're going to win a big proportion of our games will be a set piece. But I think what's more impressive about this is one, that we did it at Craven Cottage, which we don't have a great record at in the last few seasons. Obviously, before this game, we lost one and we drew one at Craven Cottage. And we came here and we didn't play at our best at all by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't really look threatening going forward because Fulham would sit in this low block, five at the back, four in midfield, and one, and they would all be behind the ball and they would just come and beat us, and then we would just play it around the back of our defence, and we would just go in this big U shape, and Fulham were going, "That's fine, you can have it, because we're not going to pressure you," because I think I think clubs are starting to understand if they pressure Arsenal, Arsenal can. They have so many different types of ball carriers in that team that can all break the lines. That if you try and go toe to toe with us and match it, you will get slaughtered. We found that out with Man City last season. We found out with Real Madrid last season. There were too many teams that tried to go toe to toe with us, that they would sit in a low block, and we would go, all right, cool. We now have elite set pieces, and we have so many players who can get on the end of those set pieces. Like when Gabriel was out injured, Saliba was getting on the end of the set pieces. But I think what we didn't have last season was this immense squad depth that we have now. So if Gabriel's out, Mosquera could win a header. Or if Saliba's out, Mosquera could win a header, or Hincapié could come off the bench and win it. Or Lewis Skelly, with his strength and ball carrying ability, can fill in, and we could put him at left back and then Calafiori at centre back, or we could put Timber at centre back and then Ben White at right back. Do you see what I mean? You see the amount of combinations that we have in this team now are so more advanced than what they were last season, which is why we are favourites for the Premier League. And I truly believe that this season is that season that we're going to win it. I truly, truly believe it, man. And if like, I can understand why some people are saying, "Oh yeah, well we've seen this story before, and Arsenal fumbled it every single time." But if you look at the difference from last season to this season, we don't look like we're going to drop any points at home or if we're away. And I think that's really, really crucial in a team. And it's taken Mikel Arteta 5 years to do that. And people are saying you have to win a trophy. We could win a double, or we could. It's a very far stretch, but we could do the treble if we go Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, or if we even do just Premier League, FA Cup. Then people can't go, Arteta can't get him over the line. They can't say that anymore. And if we win the Champions League, that's the only thing people really have on us. So if we win the Champions League, then what else are they gonna say? Oh, you didn't win a trophy in the last 20 years. Yes, but we just did. We beat every other team in the league. And then they'll say 0 Champions Leagues, and we'll go, yes, but we just won the Champions League. See what I mean? And then we would still be top of most FA Cups in history. It's one of those things where if Arteta gets us over the line in England and in Europe, no one has any more insults for us. And I'm sure that's not what's on his mind. I'm sure he does not care about the insults because he knows his ability and he knows what he can do with the team. But you see what I mean? Just like that bit of squad depth makes so much difference when you're going for the title. Um, Talking about a man who didn't come into the club recently, though, he's been there for so many years now, Bukayo Saka. First of all, he led the squad out. Squad out. He had the captain's armband. He did so well out there. He at half time it was kind of a boring game, and then he came into the second half and grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and just went, "I'm gonna take all of you on." And he took the game on by himself, and he did so well. He kind of dribbled through like 4 or 5 of their players just like at 2 separate points, and Gyökeres could have scored one of the chances that he played him through with, and he whipped in that beautiful corner for Gabriel to flick on, and Frost scored the opener and the winner. It was such a captain's performance, and obviously we played Atletico Madrid yesterday, and I think he played another brilliant game out there today. And Atletico Madrid kind of showed again with that squad depth how much we can hurt a team. And another new boy that I want to talk about who will get confidence from that game is Victor Gyökeres, who scored 2, and obviously they weren't fantastic goals, but they're what a striker should do. So there we go. And Fulham, I do enjoy Fulham. I like Marco Silva a lot. I think he's a very good manager. But you sit in a low block and you have a set piece team like Arsenal, you can also win corners so well. You're gonna concede one way or another. I think they did have some good chances this game. Harry Wilson had a few decent shots. Um, that could have hurt us. They hit us on the counter once, but like Arsenal just get back so quickly. It's amazing sometimes. Um, Obviously Anderson came off early injured. There was a lot of one thing I did realize about Fulham this game is a lot of their players were going down not fully injured, but they were going down a lot more than what like a normal team would go down, um, which is a cause for concern for Marco Silva. He won't want to see that from his players. Not that they were doing it on purpose, honestly, but yeah, maybe it is. But the thing is, normally with teams like that who get injured and go down a lot, like Tottenham last season or Arsenal last season, is they're in different competitions all the time, but Fulham aren't. So I don't know if it's just their training or how much they're getting going to the physios or if it's something that multiple players are doing. I don't know. But for your team to go down that much, I don't know. It's a cause of concern. It really is. Um, anyway, enough of that game. On to the next game on the other side of North London. Aston Villa picked up a win again. They're on a bit of a roll now. I think Unai Emery has done something to this team. They've boosted themselves up into 11th now. They went down in 5 minutes. Rodrigo Bentancur, who, by the way, Bentancur this season has been fairly decent. I know Bentancur last season got quite a lot of stick for just not doing much, but this season since Thomas Frank's come in, he's been so good for Spurs. And a lot of the other players have been really good as well. I think like one of the players who I don't rate as highly as others should is Brennan Johnson. I think he's quite inconsistent sometimes. Um, but anyway, Aston Villa won 2-1. Morgan Rogers scored in the 37th minute after that Rodrigo Bentancur opener, and then Buendia came on in like around the 60-minute mark, I believe. Let me just check when he came on. Because it was probably around the 60-minute mark. Yeah, 61 minutes when he came on, and he scored 15 minutes after that. Or 16 if you want to get technical. But yeah, Aston Villa came back. It was two really good goals. I think Morgan Rogers proved, or he hasn't been in the swing of things as much as Aston Villa fans would have liked him to be, but this could be a turning point. And I think Buendia coming off the bench this season, I think it's the second time in 2 games that he's come off the bench and scored with, like, he is so good. And I remember him at Norwich slightly, and he was their star player. And I think Arsenal were interested in him, and then Aston Villa snapped him up. And he was injury prone for quite a lot of that time. He was a very injury prone player at Aston Villa. Um, but I think it was the correct move in total, because Buendia now I don't think would get into that Arsenal squad, but he does get into that Aston Villa squad at the moment. Yeah, I've always liked Buendia. I think he's a really talented player. Just let me have a drink first. My throat's starting to get to that point in the show. There we go. Done. I fucking love that drink. Damn. Yes. But Buendia he's such a good technical player that he can just twist you inside out. And he's good coming off the bench because he can cause little bits of magic like that. That made ultimately Aston Villa win the game. Next game I want to talk about is a shocker. An absolute shocker where Villa came back from obviously 1-0 down to 2-0 up. But Man United came back in this game from 1-1 to 2-1 with Harold Maguire. Yeah, away at Anfield, Man United haven't won since 2016 when Rooney scored, which shows you the time gap and the difference that Anfield has been for Man United and how much of a terror place it's been for Man United. Mbeumo scored in 2 minutes. McAllister got thumped by Van Dijk, and he has to wear that stupid head thing for the rest of the game. Made him look like a bit of a wally. But yeah, so Brian and Mbeumo. Yep, nice English there, James. Brian and Mbeumo scored in 2 minutes. Cody Gakpo, he was gonna score this game. It just seemed like one of those games where Gakpo was gonna score. He scored in the 78th, and then Harold Maguire, just like Leon last season, except from it didn't send them to a final, or wasn't in Europe, or wasn't in like the last minute. But anyway, Harry Maguire scored a header in the 84th minute, which ultimately won them the game. I want to talk about Liverpool a bit more. Obviously, their 4th straight loss in a row. Galatasaray, Chelsea, Man United, and Crystal Palace. No, not Crystal Palace. I don't know who it was before that. I can't remember. It might have been Palace. I think it was actually. But anyway, yeah, Liverpool look really dull. Not defensively and attackingly in both ways. They look really dull. And it is a worry for Arne Slot. Obviously Salah was their main man last season, and they've brought in Kirkez, who hasn't slotted in amazingly. Frimpong is poor, so poor defensively. Isak has been a waste of money. Wirtz was a waste of money. Mamadashvili, I can't even remember. I don't think they even signed him this summer. I think they snapped him up at another time and they joined this season. But Cody Gakpo seems to be their main source of creativity. Wirtz can't handle the physicality of it all. Salah seemed to have just fallen off of the edge of a cliff. Isak can't deal with the pressure. Kirkez just doesn't look right like he did at Bournemouth last season. Frimpong is terrible defensively. Kanate has also fallen off the edge of a cliff because he can't defend anymore. Van Dijk doesn't look like the captain that he did last season. Gravenberch has been a light source. McAllister gets hooked so early nowadays, and Gakpo and Soboslai looks okay, and Gakpo is the only real creative output that they have in that team, which is such a worry for Arne Slot because last season, like Salah was breaking all sorts of records, and now he's getting hooked in 85 minutes, which you wouldn't see last season. And Man United have somehow stolen this away win that sends Liverpool into an absolute frenzy with their fans and could take them potentially out the title race, which I wouldn't have seen coming from a mile away because I think they were favourites to retain their title. Sorry, I don't know what that was. To retain their title at the start of the season. All the supercomputers were saying Liverpool to retain, but something's happened in that camp with Liverpool, and I can't give you the answers, and I don't think anyone will be able to give you those answers apart from Arne Slot and the players who are there every single day. It's an odd one. It is an odd one to deal with. Um, but Man United looked really assured this game. Actually, 2 wins on the bounce. That man, have you? I'm sure you've all seen that guy who isn't having a haircut until Man United win 5 games in a row. He's gonna get that haircut. I'm telling you, two out of two right now. Um, but yeah, Man United looked really assured this game. I don't know what it was, but they just seemed like they wanted it more. Do you know what I mean? They just seemed like they were ready for this game, um, more than anyone else, which is what you need in a football game. You need to score more goals than the other ones, and yeah. Right, last game of the game week. I am surprised. Yes and no surprised. Um, Brentford West Ham with Brentford with the 2-0 win, and Igor Thiago is in the prime of his career, and he is scoring for fun. Obviously, he makes it 5 goals from 8 games, and then Matthias Johnson, just to put a bow around that game, scores in the 94th minute. But Igor Thiago, he doesn't look out of place, does he? Like at all, he really doesn't look out of place in that squad. Um, I am going to a team of the season at the end of it, and he is an honourable mention in there, by the way. I think he got injured. I believe he got injured when he joined last season. I think. Don't quote me on that though. But I think he joined last season, got injured, couldn't play for the season, and then this season he's come in and just destroyed it. He's been so good, and so reliable for Brentford up top. But I don't have much to report on for that game. I think West Ham again were poor. I think it's going to take some time for Nuno to put a stamp on it. And Keith Andrews seemed to have slotted in really well, um, so far for Brentford. He seemed to have maybe taken some of that Thomas Frank stuff that he learnt and put it into this game. And with being a set piece coach, you don't really need another set piece coach if you are one, being head coach. But I think Brentford are going to do. I think they're going to finish the season quite well. Now, on to a new point in the show that I have. It is Team of the Week time. That's what we should call this segment. Team of the Week time. So obviously we all know what a Team of the Week is. Goalkeeper, we're playing a 4-3-3. I've got one honourable mention who can be a substitute in this team. I'm going to do that for every week. We're going to have an honourable mention. He didn't quite make it in, but he was on the brink. So our honourable mention is the man who I was just talking about, Igor Thiago. He scored 2. He technically scored 1, is what it says, but the second one was disallowed. But he just seemed to own that West Ham defence. He had them on strings all game. He has been so good. 5 goals in 8 games. You can't get much better than that. Dubravka kept Burnley in this game and made some really good saves to keep a clean sheet against Leeds, who have been really good this season. I do rate it highly. He has been so good. He's been so good. Calafiori. made it into my team. Obviously, he did score earlier in that game against Fulham with a lovely strike, like a banger of a strike. It did get called offside, um, but he was solid for the rest of that game. And honestly, he is the best left back in the league. You can argue about it, but you know it's true. I don't like. Tell me who else goes above him in the league? No one. Uh, I think Harry Maguire has to go in. He is so clutch for Man United. Sometimes it is mental. Um, but yeah, just for that goal alone, I think he has to go into the team, and he was decent for the rest of that game for the time that he had on the pitch. Josh Acheampong makes it in for me. Obviously, he scored his first senior goal and made. He had a really good rest of that game. Actually, he was really solid. Um, Coming in for Levi Colwill, I believe, playing alongside Trevor Chalobah and Marc Cucurella and Reece James in that back four. Um, he's one for the future because he's still young. I think he is 18 or 19, so he's still young, but he's one for the future for definite. So Chelsea fans and England, because he can play for that England national team, I will keep an eye on Josh Acheampong. Um, at right back is his Chelsea counterpart, Reece James. He gets injured too much, in my opinion. But for this game, he was so good. He got a goal and an assist, and again, just like Acheampong, had a solid game in general. Um, yeah, that's the defense. Good defense. The centre mids are a bit not what you would think. So Florentino for Burnley, he had such a good game defensively and attackingly. Obviously a shining light for Burnley, but he was so good. If you go back and watch that game, he was so good defensively and attackingly. He offered so much in both terms of that. Um, both sides of his play have been really, really strong, especially in this game, which is why he goes into my team of the week for the first midfielder. Foden. Foden goes in for me. He was really solid in this game. He was that Foden of last season that the Man City fans have wanted back for so long. Um, he deserves a spot in the team. He was good. Next is Yarmolenko for Brentford. Again, if you go back and watch that game, he was really key for going forward, and he was really key for going back for Brentford. A bit like Florentino. Um, but yeah, I think he'll be a key player for Brentford going forward if they want to keep on this run of form going with Keith Andrews at the helm. Second half, what am I going on about? Right wing for the top half of that pitch, the final third, as some people would say. Saka goes in at right wing. That is one of the best halves I've seen him play football. That second half for him was so good, and obviously for the only goal and the winner, he put in a lovely corner for Gabriel to just flick on, so Trossard could tap it home. At left wing, I've put Pedro Neto. He's really proven that he's been so good for Chelsea recently, and in this game, he put a stamp on it, a goal and assist. Not much more that you could ask from your left winger. It was a really nicely taken free kick as well, I'd just like to say. But yeah, he's been so good. He's been really, really good for Chelsea, and I think this game just puts a stamp on him in the starting 11. And who else at striker than Mr. Jean-Philippe Mateta? Um, there's not more that you could ask. Brought his team back into the game twice. Top three striker in the league, 100%, and then a hat trick just to top that all off. Um, Normally what they do on the Sky Sports or on the Premier League app is they pick a manager, but I don't know what you want me to say. So I don't have a manager of the week. But that is my team of the week as a whole. I will be doing that every week from now on. And just so you all know, for the 10th game of this week, so not this week, but next week, for the 10th match of the season, I'll be doing a team of the season so far. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll be putting it on socials. I will be making that second Instagram account and possibly a TikTok account, just so you all know. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole episode. There you go. Done. Dusted. Um, I did hope you all enjoyed that more than last week, because obviously I took so long to get into the episode last week. It was unreal. I'm going to start just getting straight into it, just like that. Like a flash, before you can even say get into it. That sounds weird. But I hope you all enjoyed it. I enjoyed filming this episode. Thank you all for listening. I will see you in the next episode next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, normal filming times. I'll see you later.